So what's going on, guys? Welcome everybody back to a brand new video today. I hope you're doing well. Today we've got 20 major tips that you need to know about Black Ops Cold War that is significantly going to improve your gameplay. Now, whether you're playing Black Ops Cold War right now during the alpha or whether you're going to be playing it during the beta or the full game, these tips are going to carry over regardless of how you're enjoying the game. But these tips are going to help you understand the game more and give you a better feel for what you're going to be jumping into and should make the transition into this year's COD a lot easier. And I hope you guys enjoyed today. Before we get started, I'm also going to be giving away some beta codes for Black Ops Cold War when that comes out. So if you want to enter the giveaway in this video, all you got to do is leave a like rating. Make sure that you are subscribed if you're new to the channel, and let me know in the comment section what platform you would like a beta code on, and I'll be picking the winners out before the beta is around. Pretty much all of the tips in this video are going to be relevant regardless of balance patches and weapon tuning and all that, and they're going to be more generally how to get just more experienced and skilled at the game from a mechanical standpoint, and just helping you understand how exactly the game works mechanically, and it should make you a much better player over time, and I hope you guys find this useful. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into it. So tip number 20, the first thing you're going to want to do when jumping into Black Ops Cold War is go into your settings and go and disable motion blur. Now, this is very similar if you guys have played Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Most players tend to disable the setting because while it does look nice from a, trailer perspective or just for a cinematic effect, in game it's going to cause you to miss a lot of useful information. It's going to blur out incredibly important details that you need to be able to see in game, like very specific enemies and stuff like that, and you'll miss them generally if you have motion blur on. Now, the gameplay you're watching does have motion blur on currently, just so you can kind of see what it looks like, but also because there's a glitch in the alpha right now where basically every game it resets and puts motion blur back on. So you'll want to just be checking for that, but I'm sure they'll have this fixed when the beta and then the full game comes out. But just make sure you have it disabled unless you just really want that cinematic experience. But to me, the game plays infinitely better without it. Tip number 19 is going to be to make sure that you're paying very close attention to the sound. Footsteps are in a wonderful spot in this game at the minute. You can tell exactly what direction they're coming from, whether they're above or below you. Elevation is pretty spot on, and even distance to some degree, and it's basically the best footstep design in any Call of Duty I think we've had to begin with. So it's one of those things that's incredibly important to listen for footsteps because they are audible and they are loud. It's very important to know that the ninja perk will mitigate this to some degree. It will silence those footsteps a bit, and making sure that your just normal walk and your crouch walk are almost completely silent, and also dampening your sprint. So if you want to kind of just be off the radar as far as sound goes, then consider running that perk. But again, be very wary and just be listening out as much as you can. A good headset is going to do you wonders in this game. Tip number 18 is going to be a pretty important one, and it's also going to be found in your settings. Now, to get here, you need to pull up your regular settings menu and hit L3 to show advanced, and you're going to scroll down all the way until you find the airborne mantle behavior as well as the grounded mantle behavior. Change airborne to manual and change grounded to on second press. Now, essentially what this means is it's going to allow you to perform jump shots and move around the map a little bit more fluidly without auto-mantling onto every little piece of debris and cover that exists, because it's quite annoying when you're just trying to jump in the air and you automatically pull your gun away to jump over an object. So this way, it gives you complete control over it. Now, the way it works is if you want to mantle something, you double tap your jump button instead of single tapping it. So you have the ability to do both based on your input. I will say it might take a little bit of time to get used to if you've never really ran the setting. I'm not sure if it's Modern Warfare or not, but it might be brand new to this game, and if it is, it'll take you a couple games to get used to it, but then eventually it'll become muscle memory where you start double tapping your jump to mantle everything, and then you can press single tap once to just jump. Tip number 17 is going to be to get in practice with being able to single tap with fully auto weapons. So this is incredibly useful on guns that are fully automatic but yet have the capability to kill pretty quickly as long as you land your shots. So the XM4 is a great example, but especially at far distances because there are some pretty long sights of engagement in this. Turning your trigger finger to not only go full auto but also single tap when need be makes your gun incredibly more accurate. There is a severe penalty for spraying a lot of bullets at once, and if you can shorten that up a little bit, it kind of resets your recoil pattern if you take like a slight pause in between shots. So it's something worth considering. You shouldn't just single tap all the time, obviously, but it's something to use in context. Tip number 17 is going to be a little bit of a preference thing, but if you want, you also have a setting that's very like classic Call of Duty where you can cancel reloads by sprinting. Now, to be honest, in this game with the pacing and everything, I don't recommend this setting. At least I've not found it incredibly useful. There's other ways to cancel your reload besides sprinting it out, and I think it's really really useful to be able to have that movement while you are reloading your weapon. But just in case that's something that you want, if you haven't played COD in a while and you're just not used to that, then you can enable that in your settings. Tip number 15 is going to be understanding the kill streak system. So this is one of the most confusing and intricate kill streak setups that we've ever seen in a COD game before. The way it works is kind of strange. Now, your kill streaks do not reset on death. They are essentially what support streaks were, where you just need to get a certain amount of XP or kills, playing the objective, whatever, to scoring points to get your streaks. Now, the kicker here is as you get more kills and survive for longer, your XP multiplier kind of stacks on itself. So the more kills you're getting in one life, the more XP is going to be multiplied, if that makes sense. Now, unfortunately, I don't have all the exact numbers of what that is right now, how that exactly works, but just remember to keep in mind that your streaks don't exactly reset upon death, and so playing the objective and getting kills in a streak are all rewarded. So I think it's one of the more interesting streak systems we've had in a while. I'm not sure if it's the right idea to make them like support streaks, I guess, but it is a fundamental change that is not going back now. Number 14 is going to be understanding another pretty big difference within this game comparatively to other CODs, and that is aim punch. So when you get shot in a Call of Duty game, when you're aiming down sights, traditionally it would actually move your aim up or down, usually significantly upwards. And so this would mean you would have situations where you're shooting a guy who's aiming low, you would hit him once and then his gun would bounce up and then hit a lucky headshot on you. It was a very strange feeling mechanic, but I understand why they had it in. Now aim punch is different now, where it does not move your weapon anymore. Like your camo may shake and it'll seem as if your aim is moving around, but the direction of your bullets does not actually change. Tip number 13 is a pretty easy one to understand, but you may be used to it if you've played Modern Warfare quite a bit. Laser sights in this game currently do not actually reveal your location to your enemies. So if your laser sight is peeking around a corner or it's hitting a wall, your enemy's not going to be able to see it. It will increase your hipfire accuracy, or depending on the laser you're running, sometimes your ADS speed, but it's not going to give away your position as of right now. This may change, but you don't have to worry about that anymore, because I found myself so many times wondering if my enemy could see my laser, when in all reality it just wasn't possible. Number 12 is going to be a piece of equipment that I highly recommend using. This is the field mic. So you can lay this down anywhere you like, and essentially it becomes a radius UAV around you, just a mini version of it, and it'll detect audio signals from your enemies if they happen to walk into that circumference at all. So far I believe Ninja does counter the field mic right now, but I'm not 100% if that's going to be tweaked before the final build of the game. We'll have to wait and see, but a lot of people right now don't exactly know that the field mic is as cracked as it is, so I highly recommend using it. Play around with it and see what works best, but it's one of those devices that you really shouldn't sleep on. I expect it to get some tweaks later on, but certainly good for now, and definitely don't pass up on it at all. Number 11 is going to be taking advantage and using the tracker perk correctly. So this has two functionalities in Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. Not only does it have its traditional function that allows you to see footsteps of enemies that have ran by, considering they're not running the perk to counter it, but they have to be very, very fresh in this game. You're not going to be able to track people from like a mile away. They have to be pretty recent, but at the same time, it has another function that if you have an enemy in your line of sight, it's going to reveal that enemy on the minimap for the rest of your team. So pretty much if you have one person that has this perk and they're really just kind of scoping out the scene and they have a good line of sight on a majority of the map, then pretty much at all times you're going to have most of the enemies revealed, unless again they're running perks to counter it. Probably one of the best perks in the game right now, unless it sees any tweaks. Granted, it is an alpha, so we haven't had the whole selection yet, but it is really, really good. Tip number 10 is going to pretty much treat every gun like it's a hit scan weapon. So hit scan is basically you're aiming at an enemy, you pull the trigger, and the bullet will instantly hit them. There's no really travel time to some degree. Most weapons in the game are like that, although they are technically projectile, I guess. The velocities in this game and the lines of sight and engagements are all close enough where they just feel like hit scans. Now, at extremely long distances in some of the bigger maps and with sniper rifles, you will have to lead your shots maybe somewhat, but it's not too dramatic. It's just important to know that it's not technically a hit scan in this game, although it does feel like it. Moving on though, tip number 9, let's talk a little bit about jump shotting, which is arguably one of your best movement tools to use in Black Ops Cold War. So jump shotting has been a thing in Call of Duty that has come and gone, and it's been more overpowered in some games than others. Jump shotting is certainly back in a big way with Cold War, and that can be a good or bad thing depending on what kind of player you are, but I think it's good to know that it's not only viable, but I would say is almost mandatory if you want to be, I guess, performing at the top of your game. Now, jump shotting in this game is a little bit different to very old Call of Duties, where you would have basically unlimited jump height as long as you keep pressing the button. In this game, your jump is going to need to reset for like a second upon hitting the ground, so it cannot be spammed quite as easily. But if you can space your jumps right, or immediately while landing on the ground, queuing up any other action will pretty much always reset your jump, so you always have maximum height and like strafe distance, I guess. Jump shotting is very viable, where drop shotting is not so much right now. There are some attachments that allow you to stay ADS as you're proning, but if you just try to go prone while firing, it will break your line of sight and also your shooting, so not something I'd recommend too often. Tip number 8 is a pretty easy one to implement, although it's going to take some time, and this is map knowledge. Now, the maps in Black Ops Cold War are the ones that are available right now, and I assume the same design strategy will be carried to all of the on-disc maps. They are not exactly Treyarch style, where they're just kind of symmetrical in 3-lane. They seem to be a mix of like Infinity Ward, more open and unpredictable maps, with a hint of Treyarch classic 3-lane maps. It's a very nice blend, I would say, but it's also really important to know that map knowledge is key in this. Understanding all the angles and where people generally tend to come from is good. The best way to practice map knowledge, aside from hours in game, is record your own gameplay and watch it back. Literally just rewatch the game, and you're gonna pick up on things you maybe didn't know, and it will help ingrain all of the spots you need to be and where you need to be looking in your brain. Tip number 7 is going to be understanding recoil in this game a little bit. Now, they're pretty similar, I would say, to the guns in Modern Warfare, which many of you have played. Now, in my experience in Black Ops Cold War so far, the worst possible thing your gun can do is to have horizontal recoil, and unfortunately, a lot of the guns in the game have a pretty big horizontal kick. Now, I'm making the distinction between horizontal and vertical because vertical is the much easier version of recoil to control. When you're selecting attachments on your weapon, you should generally go for things that are going to cut down on horizontal recoil. Obviously, you want to cut down on both if possible, but if you're going to add something to your gun that maybe adds onto horizontal recoil, I would think twice about adding that on, because in this game, it's pretty brutal. It can make your gun feel very random, especially at a long distance, and it's incredibly frustrating when your gun kicks side to side and it's not easy to really get a handle on. Vertical, you can really just pull down, and that seems to help it a lot, but horizontal is a nightmare in this game if you don't get a handle on it. Tip number 6, if you do decide to drop shot, or for that matter, even just lay prone for a while, definitely make sure that you have a laser sight and you're prepared to adjust your aim, because there's nothing more frustrating in this game than trying to drop shot while ADS and then breaking your line of sight and losing a gunfight. It's incredibly annoying, and I understand it's supposed to like discourage prone gamers, which is fine, but like if you cannot live without drop shotting, just remember to do it from the hip, because you will pay for it if you don't. Tip number 5 is going to be how to influence decision making in terms of what attachments you put on your guns. Now, especially for a lot of like ARs and SMGs, like kind of these run and gun classes, the two important categories to prioritize are going to be your aiming speed and also your sprint out speed. These two components are incredibly important because they virtually determine how long it takes for your gun to be ready after sprinting or coming out of a gunfight, and you want that to be as quick as humanly possible if you're a player that likes to play fast and aggressive. Aim move speed is also crucial on ARs if you want to play a bit slower and more of an anchor kind of role. What it should come down to, what you prioritize on your guns, is the kind of map you're in, the enemies that you're against, and really what kind of player you are at the end of the day. The nice thing is, in Cold War, all of the attributes that the attachment will give you are laid out very cleanly in a statistics sheet just under the gun, so you'll know exactly what you're getting and what you are giving up and sacrificing in the process. It's very straightforward menu, and I'm a big fan of it. Tip number 4 is going to be understanding wall banging and how bullet penetration works. So yes, you can still shoot through walls in Cold War, but there is no FMJ attachment. Now, in every traditional Call of Duty game, if you wanted to have higher bullet penetration through materials, you would run FMJ, and this would do more damage through surfaces. It wouldn't do more damage just in a straight-on gunfight with no materials involved, but FMJ would decrease the damage fall off when shooting through a surface. Now, the way in Cold War it works is divided up by weapon class. So LMGs are going to have the highest bullet penetration through surfaces, followed by ARs, and then followed by SMGs. And the reason this was done is to provide a little bit more of a consistent experience, because it was kind of weird getting gunned through walls just by little weak SMGs back in the day and on older Call of Duty games, whereas some SMGs based on the attachments would not. It was inconsistent, and I get it. So there's no FMJ anymore, but that doesn't mean you can't shoot through surfaces still. Coming in at tip number 3 is going to be remember and getting in the habit of picking up guns off the ground replacing your secondary. Unless you're using a launcher for a specific reason, I would say that almost anybody's primary is going to be better than the secondary you're using. Now, interestingly, shotguns are a secondary in this game, meaning they're not as powerful as they've been in previous COD titles where they're just absolute shred machines. It doesn't mean they aren't good, but in my opinion, I think running two primaries of, let's say, the same or different weapon types is a really good thing to do. Ideally, you want to put yourself in a situation where you have two very different kinds of guns, so like an AR and a sniper, or an SMG and a sniper, or sometimes I've even found that an AR and an SMG work really well together. But the point is, getting rid of that secondary that you have, probably the pistol, is all the time worth it in my opinion. The pistols are just straight up not good in this game, at least not right now, unless a balance patch comes out, but I recommend dropping it and holding two primary guns. Coming today at the number 2 spot is just going to be very fundamental mechanical stuff, and this is keeping your crosshair placement ready. Now, in Cold War, you don't want to be putting your crosshairs either too high up or down, depending on your situation. It's best to have them around or near headshot level. Because of how fast the time to kill is in this game, and just in Call of Duty generally speaking, you want to have your gun almost always at the ready, and if you don't, then you're going to pay for it later. Having your crosshair placement on a just more horizontal track instead of throwing it up and down vertically most of the time and swinging your camera all over the place looking for people, you can scan with your eyes, but keep your gun on the most horizontal plane that you possibly can. This will help you not only in Call of Duty games, but every FPS game from here on out. Finally, guys, coming in today at the number 1 spot is going to be explaining some very interesting movement techniques. Black Ops Cold War has one of my favorite movement systems ever, and I take this with a grain of salt because I know that they might make some changes to this, but right now it feels like the Modern Warfare movement, but just a little bit better. So the way it works is you have a jump slide that can be initiated and queued up in the air. So upon pressing your jump button, you can then hit slide to initiate one on the ground. Now, there is a nice little technique where if you double tap slide while you're in the air, you'll come down with a much stronger initial slide. It's kind of hard to explain, but jumping and then double tapping your circle or crouch button in the air should queue up a very powerful slide that you can take in any direction. So you could queue it up in the air and even go backwards or to the side if you want. It's a very good feeling movement system, and I hope they don't change it too much because right now I really like it. And you can also slide from the ground, just a traditional COD slide, and then cancel it by simply pressing your crouch button again. You can also kind of cancel it by aiming down the sights when you're mid-slide animation, and it makes for really unique and cool looking movement techniques. So just play around with it. I think everybody's learning kind of how to get around in this game, and again, it might see some changes, hopefully not too drastic because I really like it how it is now, but yeah, it's something that I would definitely play around with and you'll get much better at it. So anyways, guys, that is going to be the 20 major tips that you got to know in Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. I hope this video was helpful a little bit and this can assist you a little bit in game. If you guys enjoyed the video today and would like to enter the giveaway, please make sure to give a thumbs up on the video before you go. Subscribe if you are brand new to the channel, and also if you want to go follow me on Twitch, I stream almost every day over there. Link to that is in the description down below. I'd appreciate a follow. Plenty more Cold War videos coming your way when the beta comes out, as well as the full game, so stick around on the channel and you'll have plenty more videos in your sub box. Thank you guys for watching so much once again. Have a fantastic rest of your day or night. Enjoy Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, and I'll see you all in the next live stream or the next video. Take it easy, everybody. I gotta go. Have a great one, and peace out.